Hey, looks like we are live. Hey guys, it's Ultra Nene starting the day. I have a good reason. I kind of took over the studio. Now I own this place. So anyway, I'm going to be teaching a class about. Hang on. I don't know what the class is about, but I'm teaching something. And basically, this is my friend AP Grape. Hey everybody, let's see what Gabe has in his football cards. I'm not really good at puppets, I'm sorry, but I did my best. Good job. Now, let's see what we have today. Ooh, we have a fire one. That fire one, really cool. Now, let's see what it says. 8. Stay focused. Flames of determination never fade. Wow, that means something to me because stay focused, gotta lock in. Even if you're down by a lot, gotta lock in. Flames of determination never fade. They never fade. You gotta keep going. So let's see. I don't really have anything else except a song. I was down, but now I'm up. It's I got to say no, look. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that mud. I was down, but now I'm up, 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 up. I was down, but now I'm up like my name Lazarus. No Satan gonna be mad. This I had to ask my dad if it's okay to swing my bat. This he said, well, if I pitch to the side of the park, oh, so quick, it's like we stuck apart. They see the numbers, but I see the heart. 10,000 hours spent in the dark, but nigga, we even though we didn't even know that World War talking about men who could be World War II full of faith. That's for sure, yeah. I know some people go look at me crazy, and I'm like, for what? Yeah, I was stuck. I was down, but now I'm up. It's I got to say no, look. I used to be stuck in that mud. I was down, but now I'm up, 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 up. I was down, but down and up on seesaw when I'm on a beat like Old Islam, but I keep off going down to the T-top. Got clouds on my feet like Jack and the Beanstalk. Drunk off foot, we're straight in the free fall. Cowboy hat in my city here. And I don't feel like feline. Put them back in the sea like a recline. Ay, what you moving now, worthy? Did it with a purpose. Then in your apartment, bring the bottom and about it to the surface. Mind your business, then the vice versa. When a little guy make a big, big, big moves. Tick tock, turn to a tick, 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 boom. Hey, I talked a lot of stuff, probably thought it was the bluff that I went and third it where. Now it's time for this class. Thank you. Visit me on Ultra Cubby at YouTube. Make sure it's on YouTube. Peace.
I love how you're getting more comfortable with the oh wow, we've got so many people on. I love how you're getting more confident with the camera there, hun. All right. Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be with you today. I hope y'all enjoyed that little performance there. Yes. Okay. Yep. All right, so we are going to get in line with our class today. Yes, that song was from Forrest Frank. He has definitely been working on it. But you know, we send her to voice lessons and she works with them on different things. So we'll see how it all goes. But today we've got some questions. Yeah, we've got some questions. We got some questions to answer today about your money. Now look. If you have a money question, there's one of two things I want you to do. Drop it in the chat so I can answer it after I finish the questions that are already in the queue. Or if you don't feel comfortable being known to have asked your question, right? You could also alternatively just go to ladiesofwealth.com and you can click the ask a question and you can either leave a voicemail or you can do a text question the voice, you just click the button and it starts recording and you can just talk. You just nothing, no threat. We'll edit it. We'll take out the ums and the ahs and all of that. Okay. And so I have a couple of questions today that were submitted. And then I've got one that was sent to me. A friend of mine sent it to me off of a money Q&A website. And so we're going to do that today. Now, first of all, I'm going to apologize to the guys up front because it appears from the questions that I have today, it's like it's mean husband day. And I know it isn't. I know it isn't. I know all men aren't like that. Okay. I know all men aren't like that. It's not true of all men. It just happens to be the ones that are in the questions, and they all felt like they were good to group together to kick us off tonight. So, sometimes, I'm sorry, I'm real distracted about my hat here. I'm like, it did not look like this earlier, but then I put it down and I accidentally put stuff on it. And so now it's all like that. I'm like, no, anyway, I'm sorry. That's my vanity talking. Anyway, I just want to apologize to the men folk today. I know that all husbands are not like this. Okay. It's just how we are. It's just the grouping of the questions tonight. All right. And if you are joining us live, I want to encourage you to check out our Ladies of Wealth podcast. We extract a lot of these Thursday night classes to use for the podcast, but sometimes we have additional interviews and other things like that that go on the podcast. Now, if you're listening to me as part of the podcast, then I'm going to encourage you, guess what? To come watch us live, okay? Thursday nights. Now, I am actually thinking about switching that to the day, and especially since my home setup, the mic is nowhere near as cool as my office setup. I'm like really thinking about switching it to the office, but the little guy doesn't want to miss being a part of the show, and I want to encourage his comfort in front of the camera. So we may just suffer along with this mic setup that I know is not as good as some of the other things you've heard me broadcast. So if you are listening to me on the podcast and you're like, wow, 1 minute she has a great mic and the next minute she has an okay mic, and then sometimes I'm traveling and the mic is not that great, just bear with me. We're getting it together. I already done put the pre-warning in, started greasing the skids there to Mr. Man that I may have to get a new computer set up for here, because we determined that all these mics we've been buying, it's not that they don't work. They don't work with this old computer. My beautiful chocolate drop computer. If you haven't seen my beautiful chocolate drop laptop, y'all, it's gorgeous. It's based on the chocolate diamonds, the Levian chocolate diamonds. It's gorgeous, and they don't make them anymore. And I love my laptop. I love how it looks. I love when I pull it out and people are like, ooh. Y'all know I'm not that bougie. I don't walk around with a whole lot of brand names. Like, I'm not gonna wear your brand unless I like it or you're paying me, right? But I do like my chocolate drop laptop, and I think it might be time to let her go. Anyway, all right, so let's get to the questions today. Excuse me, let me just take a quick sip here. All right. Our first question today is about a woman whose husband is threatening divorce. Whoa, that's a big word, because he found out she's been investing. We are also going to hear from a woman who has been hiding her shopping from her husband. And we're going to hear about a woman who has been, shall we say, supporting her college-age son. Again, men, I know the Ladies of Wealth podcast, we support hardworking women and a few good men. And I want you to know we are not here to tear down men today. This is just the nature of the grouping of the questions. Okay. So, excuse me. Here's the first question. Okay, JJ, I need some perspective. Oh, I already like how they write this. I need some perspective here, because my husband and I are in a huge fight, and now he's throwing around the word divorce. So here's the situation. We've been married about 10 years, and during that time, I've been putting aside a little bit of my fun money every week, like $50, sometimes a little more, sometimes less, and I've been investing it. Well, he just found out about the account, and he's furious because I didn't tell him. The account is around 20. The account is around $24,000 now. From my perspective, this was my spending money anyway. If I didn't invest it, I probably would have just bought random stuff or gotten my nails done or something. But the real reason I didn't tell him is because he's honestly kind of a spender. If he had known that money existed, there would have been constant pressure to use it for this toy or that trip or something he suddenly decided we needed. Now he's saying the secretly is basically financial betrayal and he's threatening divorce over it. Ooh, y'all. Now this is crazy. This is so crazy. Now, I also I gotta warn you, we're trying out different things with the setup. I'm still not sure where to look. Like to look at the camera. Am I looking at the middle? It's like they change it every time, and I forgot to do a screen on it before we started. So anyway, I'm gonna look here. If I'm not looking at you, I'm sorry. It's not because I'm reading anything. I'm just looking here because I'm not sure, because I know here's too low and I know up at the camera is too high. Okay, anyway. Financial betrayal, huh? And he's threatening divorce over it. This is a difficult one for me. This is a difficult one for me, y'all, because y'all have heard me. If you've been with me for any length of time, you have heard me say, don't ever, never, never, not ever, as Clark Howard would say, never, ever, not ever liquidate your investment account for some smooth talking man. But in this case, the smooth talking man was her husband when she put together the investment account. Okay. So, usually in the other two questions, I should have saved this one for the last, because usually the question is, I've been spending money and hiding it from my spouse. Not I've been saving money and hiding it from my spouse. But I'm going to have to take my personal situation out of this. But before I do that, I want to explain my personal situation. So for those of you who don't know, life happened and I ended up a single military mom with over $800,000 of debt. And that was, I really had to hustle hard to do what I needed to do so that I could retire from the Air Force and not be overshadowed by all that debt. And so for me, when I read this, I'm like, she says her husband spends a lot of money. And I spend more money now than I used to. And not just because a lot of the money I spend in the store is my husband's money, because he does cover all our expenses. But I mean, I'm still a very frugal person. I mean, I don't always buy generic brands, because if I'm making a recipe, I need it to taste the way I want it to taste. But I'll do generics when I need to, and I'm all for saving. I'm not just gonna go out there. I'm always looking for a coupon code before I buy something online, right? But when you are in partnership with somebody that spends money like there is no tomorrow, if it's in the account, it is meant to be spent. That's how some people really live their lives. And that's not a good recipe for financial independence. I'm not knocking the fun and the excitement of living that kind of life. And I think a lot of times opposites attract. And so the person who is more spendthrift, they like to shop, they like to spend, they like to be the life of the party, they like to treat everybody, they can introduce levity and fun to a person who is really more tight with their money and is afraid to have fun. Okay. On the flip side, the person who is more structured with their money and who is more calculated and strategic with their money can then introduce some structure, some guide rails to the person who's always having fun. And that way, the person who's always having fun can ensure that there will be money left later to have fun with. A lot of us grew up in situations where, our parents got paid Friday night and then they spent all the money, and then there was no money for the next 2 weeks, or the next week, or however often it was. Okay. So saying all of that, I think this really brings in a couple different pieces that I am not really qualified to talk about. So I'm just going to mention them from an observer of human behavior. Can we say that? I'm not a counselor. I don't play one on TV. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. So I'm just observing human behavior. And when I observe human behavior, when that word is thrown out over a revelation like this, that's pretty much a signal, a symptom, a sign that there's a lot more going on that's wrong. Because when you find out the person you love has done something that really hurts, they've hidden something from you, your love for that person kind of carries over. That love for that person kind of carries over. Whoops, hold on. I don't know what I just did. That your love for that person should carry over. Your love for that person should carry over to at least try to work it out. So I don't know if the man has been looking for an excuse. I don't know what other history went behind this question. You know, he found out about the secret account because they were already considering divorce and he had gone to a lawyer and the lawyer found this out. I mean, like that's that, lead with that next time, right? There's a lot of underlying things that we don't know. But one thing I do know is that when you love somebody, when you truly love somebody and you want what's best for them, then you don't rush to such drastic measures for no reason. Does that make sense today? Again, I'm not a counselor. Don't play one on TV. It's just my observation of human behavior. And so I would say that if this is that first mention or first marital crack, well, that was your problem. Now, I'm also going to say that the fact that she feels like she needs to have investments that he doesn't know about. See, I don't want to say it like that. It's not like she's lying to him. Okay. I got a question later on where the gal is lying to her husband. All right. Now that's a whole different ball of wax. This lady is not lying to her husband. They have a set amount, and whatever it is, her little bit of fun money every week, I think she said it was about $50. She saves it. Sometimes she might buy something with it, but for the most part, she socks it away in an investment. And now it's grown over 10 years or however long she said it was. Now it's grown. Well, it's grown, but does that mean he needs to know? I would love to get your input on because I'm really torn on this. I feel like honesty is the foundation of a relationship, but I don't feel like he should feel entitled to money she invested with her fun money. That's her weekly spending. Like if she wanted to go out to eat with some friends, that's the money she used to invest with. So she said, nah, I'm not going to get that nasty McDonald's. I'm going to put this in investment because I need to have something for my future. And I personally encourage women to, save, we used to call it milk and egg money. If you have a little side business, or even if you have a big size business, depending on your family structure, if you can sock away some money for savings, I highly encourage women to do it. Not because men, we want to hide everything from our men, but because men traditionally leave women hanging when they die early. Like you have an insurance policy for 30 years, and then at the 2 years before he dies, he decides he's not going to do it anymore. Like he's not going to pay the premiums anymore. Like you don't know what's going to happen. He gets into a gambling thing, and the next thing you know, you're losing your house. You don't hear those kinds of stories all the time the other way around. So I'm not trying to be stereotypical. I'm just saying when you usually hear of a story like that, it's the woman left holding the bag, not the men. Unfortunately, she's not holding the money bag. She's holding the poverty bag because of his decisions. So I kind of feel like his anger is maybe not directed in the right way. let me give you a real world example. And I hope I didn't clear this with my husband because I didn't think of it till just now. So hopefully I'm not embarrassing him too much. But I don't like to be early. Now, I don't like to be late either. And I've noticed over the years that I've been retired from the Air Force, it's almost like a backlash. Like, ooh, I had to be 5 minutes early and on time. 5 minutes early is late. You know what I mean? Like, I had to be so regimented with my time. But while I was in the Air Force for 23 years, plus 4 years at the Air Force Academy, like it's almost like a backlash. Like, no, I'm not going to be on time and you can't make me. Well, discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and actually follow it, right? So we driving that devil away, okay? But I still, even being on time, I do not like to be too early. And there's a lot of reasons for that we won't go into right now, but to me they're very valid reasons, and that's just how I am. My husband, on the other hand, if he's not 15 minutes early, he's late. To me, I'm like, I could get 3 things done in that 15 minutes, right? And so I'll never forget a date. Or I think it was a second or third date. I forget which one, but it was early in. Like, it was early in. We weren't that invested yet, And I remember thinking to myself, after this, I don't know what's about to happen here, but we're gonna have to work this out, because we had a date schedule. I don't remember the exact time. I'm just gonna throw out 6:30. Okay, I think it might have been 6:30. We had a date scheduled for 6:30. He was gonna come pick me up and take me out to dinner at 6:30. So, and I get off work at 6 o'clock. And because I was getting ready to deploy, my son already lived with his father. Or was it my mom? I think it was his father this time. My son already lived with his dad, in anticipation of me deploying in a month or two. And so we didn't want him to break up his school year. We just started the school year in Virginia. And so I didn't have childcare to worry about or anything, but I worked till 6. Well, I lived right outside the gate. I mean, it was 5 minutes to my job. 6:30. Oh yeah, I could be ready by 6:30. Only I get home at 6:10 and he's already sitting in the parking lot. And it's not that big of a deal to most people, but honestly, I did not like showing guys me in uniform. I mean, I did not like guys to see me in uniform before they got to know me, because my uniform was kind of intimidating with the rank and everything, right? And so I get out the car and he's like, hi, and I'm like, it's 6:10. Why are you here? We're not meeting till 6:30. And he's like, well, I like to be early, and he had driven from an hour away, so I mean, of course, he wanted some flex time. But look, if it had been me, I wouldn't have done that. I might have come early if I'm driving from an hour away, but I would have hid myself. I wouldn't have been like that. You weren't expecting me till 6:30. I wouldn't show up till 6. In fact, in a social event, now this is the difference between the North and the South, y'all. In a social event, you don't show up on time. You show up 5 minutes late, because on time the hostess is still getting things together. The South is different. I know I'm on a rabbit trail from a rabbit trail from a rabbit trail, but just hear me out on this. The South is different, because in the South, I just learned this year. Y'all, I've been living in the South for like 10 years now, and I just learned this last year. In the South, when women have a get together, everybody comes early to help you set up, and to get to know each other, and to visit with each other. I didn't know that. I did not know that. I would get irritated when people would come early, like, what, why? And they'd be like, can I help? Can I help? And for me, it's like, no. And that must be the Italian thing, right? Because it's like, no, my house is already supposed to be spotless. Everything is supposed to be laid out. When you show up, it's supposed to be done. That's not that's not how the South works. I don't even know if that's how the North works. That just might be how an Italian family works. I don't know. Italian families are interesting. My auntie who passed away, she didn't now, but she used to have 2 kitchens and 2 living rooms. You never saw the one that actually got used or got cooked in. You saw the pristine, gorgeous one. Anybody else got a family like that for the old world ways, right? So anyway, so he was like, well, we have a 6:30. And I'm like, yeah, but it's only 6:10. I still got to go get ready. Now, he was impressed that I got ready quick. So, whew. But the thing is, when people have differences of opinion, they need to either work that out, or they need to figure out a workaround. And I get a little, I tell you what, I get a little frustrated sometimes. We got a clock where I get ready that somehow magically got early. It magically, and I'm sure not one of the 3 men in my house, well, boy and 2 men in my household, will ever admit to changing the clock, but I'm pretty sure they changed the clock to make sure that mom gets done on time. And Do I threaten to leave over it? No, I chuckle like, okay, I got to do a better job of getting on time. And one day that clock is going to be back. I'll always be early, in 5 minutes early again, like in the military. But that day has not come yet. But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm using a lighthearted example to kind of touch on this really difficult question, because should the husband understand that he blows through money like there's no tomorrow, and if she let him have her fun money, then he would blow through that too? If he appreciated her, he should be able to be like, oh man, I'm late, I'm sorry you had to push the clock back, or I'm late, I'm sorry you had to give me an earlier time. Like the first time, like, I don't know if people still do it, because I try not to have that happen anymore. But I remember the first time I realized that people gave me an early time, because I showed up because I was trying to work on being on time, and I showed up half an hour early, and, and I made a comment and everybody got red, and I was like, oh, they did that on purpose. They didn't want me to be late. The first time that I know that happened, I'm not saying how many other times it might have happened in the past, but the first time that happened, I said, oh no, we're not going to have this happen again. I'm going to be on time. Now, have I always been on time? Probably started this podcast 5 minutes late, right? But for the most part, we're getting we got a handle on it, right? And so if I'm this husband and I'm spending like crazy, and my wife is squirreling away money, well, first of all, my love should keep me from threatening divorce. So the fact that he did implies this lady really needs her money, because something else is going on, okay? Secondly, if he knows he's got a problem with money, why not appreciate the fact that she's had the foresight to do this? Again, deeper problems going on. And then finally, it was her fun money to begin with. So I'm going to, if she was sitting here in front of me, I would tell her, hey, nothing wrong with saving your fun money. However, I would also tell her, this is a problem now because you've broken trust with your husband. And I would probably get more of the story, right? But at face value, this is one of those no-win situations. And sometimes when it comes to money, we have to be in a no-win situation. I remember, let me not tell that story. Let me go back to what I was saying about how sometimes the husband dies early and the wife is left holding the bag. I had a guy I was liking. I don't think he watches my podcast, and I don't think his wife does either, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story. But I had a guy I was liking. We never dated or anything. We were just platonic friends for a while, but then I kind of got a crush on him. And he told me that his dad cut off his life insurance for his mom. And I was like, what? Why would you do that? And he said, well, his dad's best friend died, and his dad's best friend's wife was living the high life off of the insurance money. And she was traveling all over the world, and she was dating other men. And this man's dad decided he didn't want his widow doing that when he passed away. And I looked at him and I was like, now, wait a second. Now, your mom, because they were a military family, just like mine was, your mom gave up her career and her life to move all over the world and take care of y'all. And he's not going to leave her any insurance money because she might actually have fun. Like, what kind of sense does that make? Like, she earned that insurance money. She earned the right to have some fun in her mature years. Now, I don't know if he really felt that way or if he just said it so I would stop liking him. But the minute he told me he agreed with his dad, I was like, all the feelings, they were gone. Because if you agree with that, you're going to do that to me. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Men, good men know this. And I'm sure men put up with a lot from their wives too. But I feel like women put up with a lot and give up a lot to be a good partner. And they deserve everything that they can have. Okay. So this could be one of those no-win situations. But the bottom line is you acquired this money while you were married. So technically, even though it was your fun money, technically, even though you both spent your money the way you wanted to, technically, if y'all do get a divorce, half that money belongs to him. And the lawyers are going to make you split it. So if I were you, I would try to reconcile this with your husband, assure him that you weren't plotting and planning against him to leave him. But I'm gonna tell you now, I didn't get any details in this. But But many of us know with human behavior, what's the first thing that cheaters do? They accuse you of cheating. What's the first thing that fill in the blank does? They accuse the spouse of doing what they did. It's a psychological thing called projecting. And if they're projecting, if he finds this money and all of a sudden, well, you're trying to do this and 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 I want a divorce, chances are there's a dead cat on the line. And so I encourage you, my sister, to try your best to smooth things out for the benefit of your household. But at the same time, I would start getting my ducks in a row just in case. And if this person who spends everything faster than y'all can earn it decides that he wants a divorce from you and because you're trying to take care of y'all's future, well, I believe that, two people who want to work things out can work things out, especially if they filled with the Holy Spirit. But sometimes you got to let the trash take itself out. Okay. All right. Let me see. We got another question coming up here. Let me check the comments here and see if we got any comments on that. Oh, okay. I don't see any comments on that. I want to know what y'all think, y'all, because this is a sticky one. This is a real sticky one, and it's not something that happens all the time. Usually it's hidden debt, Okay, let me pull up the second question here. All right, our next question today is about a young bride who is hiding her shopping from her husband. Let's see what she has to say. Hi, JJ. I don't know if you remember me from Financial Peace University last year, but my husband and I have been working the plan and trying to get out of debt. The problem is I keep shopping. Like I'll pull a little extra cash out at the grocery store and use it for clothes or shoes or craft stuff. And he thinks it's just part of the grocery bill. I'm not going to lie, that's pretty slick. My mom said that's just what wives do. You hide the bags in the back of your closet and bring them in later. All right, where's all my 40s and 50s women at? You know that's true. That was so true. I hope it's not true anymore, but it was so true back in the day. You hide the bags in the back of the closet and bring them in later. And then if he asks, you can say, oh, this, I've had it forever. Oh, this old thing, oh, I've had it forever. But he's been working 2 jobs and packing his lunch every day so we can get out of debt. And I'm starting to feel really guilty. I'm kind of scared he'll be really mad if he finds out we could have been getting out of debt faster if I had been doing this. How can I tell him, and should I? Woo, y'all. This is a good one. All right. Okay, first of all, let's address the easiest one. Should you tell your husband? I think yes. The real question is how. Okay, how do you tell your husband? And I am a big fan of honesty, so I would never tell anybody to lie. But what's happened in the past has happened in the past. And so there's a couple of different approaches that I would take with this person if we were sitting down. And I encourage you, if you are watching or listening, because I'm going to email a response, but if you're watching or listening and you don't get the email, because the Ramsey system does not allow us to email you guys anymore like it used to. That's why a lot of people haven't heard from me, because I never pushed them to go into my website. So you sent this in to Ladies of Wealth. I think I remember who you are, but if I don't remember who you are, or if you don't get an email from me or something, come back to Ladies of Wealth and book an appointment or send me your contact information. Okay. So I can reach out to you, because we should sit down and strategize on this, because the thing is you're not going to get out of debt any faster than the unity that y'all have in your marriage and in your goals. And so what I have to uncover, and I have to help you uncover as a financial planner and as a financial coach, is I have to help you uncover what's at the source of all of this. Is it that you just don't like being told no, and so you feel like the budget is telling you no? That's a common thing. A lot of people don't like spend plans because they feel like the budget is just chaining them. They can't do anything. Well, that's why I like to call them spend plans, so we can think about how we're going to spend the money. I like to shop. We can call them shopping plans. But do you feel like the plan is closing you in? Do you feel like the plan is making you feel bad about yourself? Like, what is going on here? Because very rarely is excess shopping actually about the shopping, okay? Very rarely is excess shopping about the shopping. Very rarely does somebody go and buy shoes and purses and things when they have the goal to get out of debt, and they don't need the shoes and purse. Now, I'm not talking about needs, okay? But I will in a second. Very rarely does somebody go do that kind of thing, especially with such a sneaky plan. Like, every time I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna pull out some extra cash, so it looks like I just went to the grocery store. The transaction on our bank account just shows the total of the grocery store. Like, I'm like, this is quite genius here, right? And and so we have to get at what's going on there, okay? Because very rarely is that behavior simply because the person doesn't have enough slush fund money. Sometimes there's an excitement of, "Ooh, I'm getting away with this." Sometimes there's the feeling of, "I shouldn't have to. I work hard too. I'm entitled to have a little bit of fun with my money." Okay? Sometimes there's a feeling of hopelessness in other areas that you haven't been able to address, frustration in other areas that you haven't been able to address, anger or irritation or toxicity in other areas that you haven't been able to address. And the shopping then becomes a symptom of your body and your brain's inability to deal with the underlying problem. And so we have to kind of nug through all that to get at, how do you present this to your husband? Because when you present this to your husband, what he needs to hear in your voice is, "I was wrong for this, and it's not going to happen again." And it not doesn't need to just be platitudes that are spoken, but there needs to be real, genuine energy and intention and action behind it. Okay? And so that I do want to address the very first thing we would do when we sit down. And that is, we would address whether or not you have enough fun money. Because if you don't have enough fun money, or you aren't adequately budgeting, spend planning for the things that you need, that's a whole separate issue. Now, I'd be honest with you, I don't find that very often in today's world. Like, I very rarely find in today's world that people are sneak buying, sneak shopping because they don't have enough money budgeted, spend planned, okay? More often, it's one of the other things, the emotional components, or the something like that that's really kind of triggering. And I, as a professional coach, a certified professional coach, right? I know how to help uncover those things, and I also know how to be like, okay, this is what I can help you handle as a coach. This over here needs a counselor. Okay. And so when you work with me, you can get that sense of, okay, the JJ's got my back. She's going to help me uncover what I need to know. And she's going to point me in the right direction if what I need takes a deeper level of expertise than what she can offer me in that moment. Okay. So you don't have to worry about that with me. If you start uncovering stuff, I've got some good counselors on speed dial who will help you out in the moment. And then we'll get you into some long-term therapeutic care where you can get some support. Okay. And I say, we'll get you, I'm not paying for it, but but we can find ways for you to get care. Okay. But a lot of times it doesn't take that. A lot of times it just takes an awareness. It takes an awareness of, wow, this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I'm choosing to deal with that feeling, rather than addressing the feeling. Okay. But in the situation where the person is not given enough money to spend plan in the first place, that's a completely different issue. And one of the things that when I facilitate Financial Peace University or when I teach my own money classes, one of the things that we really emphasize is everybody has to have an input to the spend plan. So even if one person is the more nerdy type that does all the spreadsheets and the planning and likes to crunch the numbers, the other party still has to show up to look at the budget, and they still have to make some changes so that they can feel like they are invested in it and so that their equities can be heard. Because here's an interesting thing about life of the party fun, flighty types. They also don't like conflict. They don't like to rock the boat, and they don't like to make their partner mad. So guess what happens when their more calculated and analytical partner puts together the spend plan? They don't want to come in and ruin the harmony by saying, you don't get $100 a month towards sailing, and I only get $10 a month towards my hair. Okay. And so that leads me to another example that I thought of just as we were talking. I remember someone early when I first got married. I think it was my ex-husband's pastor. Honestly, I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure it was my ex-husband's pastor. There was, I came from a whole different faith tradition, and then I came into a Pentecostal evangelical style ministry, and I was just like, my mind was like, what is this? And then you have that American Christianity with the submissive wife and all that stuff, and I was just like, what is going on here? Plus they were speaking in tongues. Y'all, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was like, you know what, I don't know if this is gonna work for me, right? And that man got up and he started talking about how one of the biggest mistakes he made early in his marriage is he did not account for his wife's maintenance money. So she used to, when he met her, she was drop dead. She still probably is. I never saw her put on weight other than pregnancy, and then she lost it right away, but she was drop dead gorgeous, silky hair, all the nice things, very well put together. And he didn't realize that just doesn't fall off the tree. You don't just roll out of bed and look like this. You know what I mean? And so, he wanted her to buy, some of y'all know what I'm talking about, the brown sugar stockings, those cheap, super rough stockings that make you feel like you're sweating 20 times. He wanted her to use the dollar store shampoo. And y'all know, hey, when you don't have, and that's all you can get, then get the best you can get where you're at, right? But when you're used to some Paul Mitchell, and your hair has been looking like some Paul Mitchell, and now you want to go to Dollar Tree shampoo, look, that just does not always work. And so she was upset. And one of the things that she said, she complained to her dad, or he said she complained to her dad, and her dad actually pulled him aside and said, when she was in my household, this is how much money. No, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. That was not her dad. This was what he said he was going to do for his daughter. I'm so sorry. But they didn't even have kids at that point. But he said if he ever had a daughter, this is what he was going to do. He was going to pull that man aside if he had a daughter and she wanted to get married. Can I just start that part over? And so he was telling us about the fact that she needed maintenance money, and that if he ever had a kid and one of those kids was a daughter, that he was going to tell her future husband, this is her maintenance budget. Because if you want her to look the way she looked when you fell in love with her, you're going to have to pay what it cost to keep her looking like she looked when you first fell in love with her. And guess what? A lot of people don't do. Guess what a lot of people don't do? Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Guess what a lot of people don't do? A lot of people get into these relationships, they stop doing what they did in the first place to attract the mate, and then they wonder why the mate is no longer attracted to them. Or in his case, he got into this relationship, but he was so frugal, he tried to put her on the most max extreme budget and then was upset that her hair frizzy. Well, you know what? If you don't get your hair done and you use raggedy products, your hair going to be frizzy. Okay. So with this couple, if this couple is not accounting enough for the things that she likes and needs, can we do all the likes and needs when we're trying to climb out of debt, look, when I was $800,000 in debt, my fund money every month was $2. I mean, every week was $2. $2 a week. I would go to grocery shopping once a week. I would pull out $5 from the commissary, and $3 would go to the checkout lady, and as her tip, and another $2 would go into my envelope for spending on my son. And now the Lord blessed me. One of the things, and I teach my clients this: when you make a commitment to your financial future, doors just open up. They just open up. They open up, and you're just like, wow. They just open up, and you don't have to pay for this, and you don't have to pay for this, and you don't have to pay for that, and you don't have to pay for that. Now those doors don't open up to me like that anymore. But they did when I needed them to. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, I'm not famous enough yet. I'm famous in a 10-mile swath, right? No, I'm not even famous in a 10-mile swath. Maybe a 10-second swath. But one day, no, but even then, this is going way, way off the rails here. What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't bother me that those doors don't open to me because I'm not in the situation I was back then. And that's what I was really trying to say. So with this couple, are they accounting in the spend plan for what she needs to go do her job and to go look? Men can get away with a lot more than women can in most jobs. Okay. Now, depending on where you live and depending on what your job is, and I don't remember what this couple, because there's 2 or 3 couples that I kind of think that they are, but they didn't leave me any contact information, so I don't know who they are. Okay. But there's a couple of young couples. One of them just had kids, and I'm kind of thinking this might have been. But depending on where you live and depending on what your job is, Clark Howard he wears the same shorts and polo shirt. He's been wearing that same outfit for years. Polo shirt from Sam's Club or Costco, and tan shorts. That's what he's been wearing for years. Spoke on some impressive stages wearing a polo shirt and tan shorts. And you know what, with ladies, it doesn't normally work that way. So, if she has a desk job where she has to be seen every day, she can't just wear the same, wash and wear the same shirt and the same pants every day. Or, she doesn't just get one pair of jeans and 5 t-shirts and call that good. Now, I remember back in the day when that's what I had to do, but when you can do better, you do better. And sometimes, and now I'm sure this applies to men too, okay? I'm sure that sometimes it applies to men, but a lot of times it applies more so to women, that if you don't look good or appropriate or confident or put together or presentable, if you don't look appropriate for the role that you're in, you may not be in that role much longer. And men get way more grace in this area than women, okay? So I'm not justifying her purchases. I'm not justifying her I'm not justifying her hiding the stuff. Now, I remember back in the day, when I first graduated from the Air Force Academy, I already made more money than my parents did put together. And the same with Philip's father. He made more money than his parents did at that time. And so we just had plenty of money. We didn't do well with it. I mean, honestly, we squandered and traveled a lot of it away, but those were good trips and good traveling. And I don't regret that. But one thing that I did find very odd was when I first moved and I became friends with some ladies from our church. And so I was the military person, but for them, their husbands were the military person. They were military spouses. And I'll never forget the first time we went shopping together, and they put all their stuff in the trunk, and then they moved stuff around so that they could hide what they bought. And so in my growing up, my dad didn't do anything with that. He spent the money, but he didn't pay attention to how much his paycheck. My mom managed all of that. She managed the entire household. So to me, I was like, what are you doing? Oh, well, we're hiding these. And I was like, well, what? And I didn't understand. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, how could you not understand this? Like, and I'm thinking, it's your money. Why you got to hide what you're spending? Okay. And that's really kind of the tack I would take with this. Why you got to hide what you're spending? And if it's because you have some issues that the spending addresses in the short term, it makes you feel better about in the short term, well, then address the issues. If you're not spending enough, in these areas when you do your monthly spend plan or your weekly spend plan or whatever it is. If you're not saving or setting aside enough, then that's a conversation you've got to have with your husband. And that's a way to couch it. Okay, so I think we talked about the emotional side, which is usually what it is, and then how the best way to frame it to your husband is, take a week and don't do that, and then talk to him and be like, hey, you might have noticed we didn't spend as much as groceries this week. Here's why. Because I realize I'm doing this thing, and I realize I have these emotional things, or I have this problem, or I have this frustration, or blah 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 blah. And so I've been doing that. Okay, that's one way to handle. But the other problem, if these are legit things that you need or want, not want, I shouldn't say want. When you're deep in debt, you got to set aside some wants. I mean, there's no way around it. Want is what got us into debt in the first place. I want this. I'm entitled to that. I should have. I deserve it. Those phrases get us into debt in the first place. Okay, and if you cater to those too long, you're going to stay in debt forever. And here's another one. My children are going to have better than me. I get that. I really do. I get that. But the bottom line, you can't control what your kid's going to do. And not only that, you could do everything you wanted to and pour into them and sacrifice everything for your kids, and they may not go the way you want them to go. They may take a different path. And then lastly, on the kids' point, especially if you got young children, let me tell you something. Young children are not going to care if they have the latest clothes. They might whine or cry, but they're not going to care. Before about 4th or 5th grade, maybe 3rd grade. I think about 4th grade, at least from what I'm saying. I've been subbing every year my child gets older. I sub a higher level, right? And I'm noticing in 4th grade where the ladies are becoming young ladies. And so I think that's probably the age where it matters more. But a kindergartner, you know what? Whether her hair is perfectly coiffed or whether it's braided and pulled back, she's not going to care. Whether she has the latest outfit or whether she's wearing something that's just okay, she's not gonna care. In fact, if you're listening to me right now and you got young children at home, use this time to go scorched earth, just sock everything away at debt, and then that way you will have something when that young lady becomes a teenager and she wants to look her best, and now she's got to deal with mean girls and bullies and all that kind of stuff. You want to be able to have the funds to support her. And somebody's like, oh, well, I had a client like, well, if I don't take care of their appearance now, at 4 years old, they might have that problem later on. I'm like, a 4-year-old really does not require as much as you think they do. I know I've passed through that stage twice, And not only that, you don't know where you're going to be living 10 years from now. You don't know where you're going to be living 5 years from now. But I'm going to tell you what you're not going to be doing 20 years from now if you keep catering to these kids and you don't put aside something for your future and you don't get out of debt. You're going to have a hard road to hoe. Because now you're going to want to do for your kids. And now you got senior pictures, you got junior trips, you got all these things. And then, of course, the kids are more judgy, and even the teachers are judgy, and you're not going to have the money to do it because you didn't take care of it back when you could have when they were little. Now, that was not the question I was supposed to be answering, but you know what? Somebody needed to hear that. Okay, so with this person, we talked about if it's an emotional issue, start working on addressing that, and then come talk to your husband from a place of, this has been happening. I'm sorry, I have changed my ways. And you want to really have changed your ways, okay? If it's the issue that y'all aren't putting enough in the spend plan for those things, that's an honest question. Like, hey, can we add this? Can we add this? And then when husband is like, well, we don't have any space in the budget. Well, I can trim some out of the grocery, okay? And you might say, well, JJ, why aren't you just saying to tell him? I'm not saying to just tell him right now because I don't know if you're going to do your part. And if you come clean and tell him you're never going to do this again and you turn around and do it again, then that's going to hurt even worse. You can give this a week or two to show that to give yourself a command and follow it. I'm not saying hide it for him forever. I'm saying give yourself a command and follow it. This week when you go to the grocery store, no pulling out extra cash. Or if you've been pulling out, I don't know, she didn't say how much it was, but you've been pulling out $50 or $25, pull out $2. Okay, pull out $5. Drop it down and see if things won't change for you energetically. Because when they change for you energetically, here's the thing that people don't know. When they change for you energetically, it will change the dynamic of your relationship. What? Hang on a second. We haven't even been an hour yet, boy. Lay down. It will change the nature of your relationship because you will have new energy. You say, well, I don't understand all that. I don't understand it either. Like I told y'all, and I tell y'all all the time, I am not a counselor. I don't play one on TV. I don't understand it, but I've experienced it. Like anytime I learn a new skill, anytime this is going to be TMI, I'm sure. Anytime I've learned a new skill or I've grown in some level of confidence, I can tell the difference in my energy. I can tell how it impacts my husband. Usually it makes me more attractive. I can tell the difference. And so our energy impacts your guilty energy, your negative energy, all the energy associated with this is impacting your husband, whether you ever tell him or not. So you got to tell him. I'm just suggesting take a week and see if you can really let it go. Take another week and see if you can really let it go and come to him from the perspective of, I've been messing this up and I really let it, and I'm letting it go. And I want to come clean and I'm asking your help to hold me accountable. That's a different conversation than if you try it for a week or try it for 2 weeks and you realize I can't let this go. Those are two different conversations. And what you don't want is to get into the conversation with your husband and have him think you're in a situation where you can't let that go and he can't ever trust you again. And now you have to deal with that as opposed to I had a problem and I solved it. Men are, again, I'm being stereotypical today, but men are problem solvers. Men are problem solvers, and they don't like just whining and this is gonna sound bad. They don't like just whining and crying, and you just oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. No, they like it better. It's like, hey, here was a problem. Here's how we solved it. Do you know? And I want some guys to comment on here. I want some guys to comment and say if I'm telling the truth or not. 2 things I learned about guys being in the military: they are not mind readers. You cannot expect them to read your mind what you want. And 2, they do not like if they don't have to put up with it, and they don't. This is why they have to remind themselves all the time. Just listen to her. Don't try to solve the problem. They do not like having problems that can't be solved. They do not like having problems they can't solve. They do not like bringing to them problems you don't want them to solve. And this is not a problem he can solve. It's only a problem you can solve. And the best way to approach it is to be like, this was the problem, and here's how I've solved it. Or I've tried to solve it on my own. I can't. I need your help. But either way, he sees that you are genuine about your intent to change the behavior. Okay? All righty. Now, yeah. That's right. That's right. Okay, so I appreciate these questions. Now I have one more question that we're going to talk about today, but I want to make sure I've gotten everything on that question. Let me think. We talked about the emotions. We talked about the not spending. There's one other thing we need to talk about, and I don't know how to bring it up. And that is, you feel guilty about not helping your husband get out of debt faster because you're kind of siphoning off some money on the side. We talked about making the spend plan account for things that you need. Okay. If you're in a work environment, we are not the children of Israel. Our clothes are not going to last 40 years without ripping and falling apart. Our sandals are not going to last 40 years without coming apart. Okay. I have not seen, we're not walking in that dispensation. Now I would mind it. And I really do feel that when I was $800,000 in debt, the Lord protected me with grace. Man, things lasted so long. I still have clothes from that time. Most of the shoes don't fall apart because my feet grew as my belly grew, but I still have clothes from that time. But if you're in a professional environment, you're gonna have to replace your clothes. If you don't have the money to replace the clothes often, you're gonna have to be more creative about that. But you're still gonna need money to wash them more often because you can't show up to work stinky. Okay. It's like people are like, oh, I'm going to sell the car. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, okay, let's strategize something that you're really going to do. Not just all this pie in the sky stuff that you're going to do for a week and then you're going to go back to your old ways and do worse. Okay. And so you have to make sure things get into the spend plan that are necessary. This isn't just in our relationships, but it's also when we're at work. How many of us at work have had our budgets cut, and rather than push back, we just absorb it We figure out a way to make it work, right? Because that's what a team player does. Let me tell you something. There's a reason that most of my units were well funded when I was in the military, and other scientists and other engineers who are a part of or leading other organizations would lose their funding left and right. Let me tell you why I got so much funding for my organizations. First of all, I was vocal and knew how to ask for money in terms that the money people and the leadership could understand, rather than just beeps and squeaks and lines on a page. Okay, that was one thing. But the other thing is, anytime you took away some of my budget, the first thing I did is say, okay, what part of my mission is getting cut? Anytime you took away some of my budget, I made sure you knew that there was going to be a pain associated with that. And 9 times, well, maybe 8 times out of 10, they would turn around and be like, oh no, we're going to restore some or all of your funding. And the other thing that I would do is I would go in and advocate every year. I knew I wasn't going to get it most years, but you were going to see my face. You were going to see my project on that list. I was going to be in that room when they racked and stacked all of the projects and who wants to help spend, or who wants the leftover money at the end of the year to be spent on them. You better believe that my programs were always in there, because I was going to ask for the money. I wasn't just going to sit aside and be like, oh, well, I'll just have to deal with it. Oh, well, what can I do? Oh, well, they took away my funding. And if that's what's going on here, oh, well, we're trying to get out of debt, and I don't want to make my husband mad, so I'm just not going to say anything. No, you got to advocate for yourself the things that you need. Okay? That said, wants are not the same as needs. Okay? I have something in here that is not water. It's something I probably shouldn't be drinking. It's Coke Zero. You know what? I got this book. Can y'all see this book behind me? Dr. Amen's new book. And I was like, oh no, I gotta give up the Coke Zero. I was like, well, I'm gonna finish the ones I got left. I'm gonna finish those first, because I was like, oh no, I gotta be awake for my class. Coke Zero is not a need. It's a want. Okay. Oh, Coke Zero is a want. Okay. It's not a need. Water is a need. Clothing is a need. Certain type of clothing may be a need. Certain type of clothing may be a want. Having yourself well groomed and presentable is a need, especially if you work. It's a need. I'm not going to make money talking to y'all about money looking all raggedy. And I'll never, and I'm not saying go out and get a Chanel purse or anything like that. I'm saying just do what you got to do. When you're in debt, do the bare minimum you got to do. I like to have my nails ready to go at any time in case I get called for a speaking engagement or something. But you know what? When I didn't have money to get them done professionally, I just did them myself, and it was okay. I liked getting them done professionally because I'm not good with the color. I can do the French tips, but I'm not good with the color. You know what? But that's not a want. That's not a need. But in some places, some professions, the way you present yourself, like if you're on the news, you got to look a certain way. You can't just have scraggle fingers. You got to look a certain way. You've got uniforms. Uniforms are expensive. Military or otherwise. You work in a place where you can't just show up with, even Whataburger. My son went to Whataburger. He used my American Legion work pants that I used for honor guard and stuff until he could buy his own, because he needed to have work pants, and he didn't understand the concept of work pants and work shoes. And so he just went into sneakers. I was like, honey, work shoes is usually either anti-static or they are steel toe. You need to find out what they want. You can't just roll in there in jeans and a raggedy t-shirt. Okay. So you got to budget those things. But in addition to budgeting those things, you got to put some fun money in there. And both partners need to be able to have some fun money. Now, if one partner says, I don't need it, it's okay, I can go without, that's fine. But don't hold everybody to that. Because because very few of us in today's day and age can live by a strict spend plan that does not allow any wiggle room for surprises and pop-up events and things like that. And very few of us can go longer than a couple of months without fun and without levity and without delight. And sure, there's a lot of things that you can do that don't cost anything, but you still got to have gas to get there. I'll never forget. This is the year that the Epic Pass first came out. And for those of you who don't know, the Epic Pass is a ski resort pass. It's good for multiple ski resorts across the nation. And when they first came out with that pass, they told I was stationed at Fort Belvoir at the time. They said, if your military people can get up here, we'll give them the pass. And I think it was like, I mean, a regular day cost to ski at Liberty, I think was like $80 or something like that. But the Epic Pass was $50 if they could get there, and they would get the end of that season free, and then they would get all of next season. And I thought, well, for $50 for a year and a half of skiing and snowboarding, and back then $10-15 of gas each way to get up there, or 10 or a tank of gas to get up and back, because it was only about an hour away. It wasn't even a whole tank to get up and back. But you're in the mountains, so that takes a little more gas. But I was like, that's a pretty good deal. And so I went up there, and I was so worried they were scamming us. But me and my son had so many freebies for like a year. We had so many freebies that my weekly grocery shopping, $2 of fun money, was just built up in the account and in my envelope. So I had the cash to do it. And so we get up there, and I'm worried we're about to get scammed, but I'm like, you know what? I at least got to try. And so we get up there, and sure enough, it was a real deal. It was a brand new pass. They were coming out with the military pass. It was like $50. And I think Phillips was not even, I don't even know if she charged me for Phillips. To be honest with you, I don't remember, but I just remember not only did we get the pass for super cheap, that the lady was like, well, you can rent snowboard gear from us, but here's a resource of where people resell their stuff. And so for under $100 for 2 seasons of snowboarding, we were able to go up anytime. And I think about the grace that was shown to me in that time. Like, we were able to do that. And the first lady wasn't helpful at all. So I had to back and get another run and start. And then the second lady was super helpful. I was like, Lord, you led me to come all the way up here. You told me to trust it. It was okay. We weren't going to get scammed, and we were going to be able to do this. And then, you know what else I discovered? I discovered that they make sleeping bags that go below zero. So you know what we would do? Y'all, we would drive up Saturday. We would drive up Saturday, and then we would spend the night in the car camping with our super amazing sleeping bags. And I don't even know how we got those, because they weren't cheap, but we got them somehow. Somehow the Lord just blessed us with them. Our super duper sleeping bags. We would car camp, and little man loved it. Philip loved it. He was like maybe 8, maybe 7. He loved it. And all that time, he didn't know we were camping because Mom was broke. He thought it was just because we're right there. You can park at Liberty. You could park right there, and the slopes is right there. You can just strap yourself on and walk across the thing and go. Like, you mean, well, I wouldn't do that. I would carry my board. But I mean, like, the slope, you wake up and the slopes are right there. So that's what he thought. And then we would get free food. Like, they would give us free hot dogs and stuff. Like, it was always a blessing. And I guess I'm trying to say all this because I want you to be encouraged that you don't have to have a dreary, drudgery life to get out of debt. If you'll make a commitment to your financial future, things like that will open up for you. I promise you they will. They have never not opened up for any of my clients. Every single one of my clients that has held on to the plan has experienced the same thing. And it's a precious and very emotional dispensation of time. But it's like that gauntlet that you have to pass through in order to become financially independent. You have to be able to think more about your financial future than right now. And what this lady's been doing, hiding her stuff, she's not only damaging her financial future, but she's possibly introducing cracks into her relationship when he responds to the energy thinking she might be doing some other things. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. Woo-wee. All right, one more question. Let me pull it up here. I skimmed this next one, and I was like, whoo, I remember when I had it like that. Still kind of do. But we got goals. I remember when I had it like that and I didn't have any goals. Oh, I cannot believe now. I think about how my ex and I, between our military and our side businesses, we were pulling in like $30,000-$40,000 a month, some months, not every month, but some months. And I'm like, where did all that money go? I know our travel budget was $2,500 a month. It was $1,500 a month, and it was $2,500 a month. We had our house and we had our cars, but where did it go? Oh, who knows? It went to line somebody else's pocket, that's for sure. Okay. All right. Our last question today is from a wife who is frustrated. Her husband is trying to control how she spends her mad money. Ooh, y'all. Okay, here's the question. Let me read it for you. My husband won't let me spend on our college-age child, even though it's from my mad money and doesn't impact our household at all. We make mid-six figures and are completely debt-free. Okay. Our oldest two either graduated from college debt-free with scholarships or our savings. Our last child is a sophomore, has straight A's, and is doing well. My husband thinks I'm enabling my baby boy by sending him spending cash and covering his car insurance. Y'all, my husband better not have submitted this question. I'm not sending him money anymore. I'm not anymore. Okay, let me go back to the question. My husband thinks I'm enabling my baby boy by sending him spending cash and covering his insurance, his car insurance. It comes to about $2,000 a month for various things. Not to brag, but we sometimes spend that eating out. So I don't understand what's the big deal. We have a joint account for household expenses and our own separate money accounts, and we put at least $3,000 to $4,000 in our own accounts each month. How can I get my husband to leave me alone about this? Whoo! Okay, first the bad news. You cannot make another grown person do anything they don't want to do. You cannot make your husband leave you alone about this. Sorry, can't do it. You cannot make another human being, unless they a baby and you physically pick them up and carry them wherever you want them to go, you cannot make another grown person. You certainly cannot make your grown man of a husband do anything he doesn't want to do. And conversely, you can't make him stop doing anything he doesn't want to stop doing. Okay, so that on the table, let's talk about the rest of this question here. Okay, I might somewhat resemble this remark. So I'm going to ask questions that sound like they're more of a counselor, coaching kind of question rather than a financial planner or a financial coach kind of question, but they all do merge together. However, I am not a counselor. Don't play one on TV. All right. To me, at first blush, straight A student, doing well, sophomore in college, everything's paid for, and you want to send him some cash every month, so he's not going out to get a job and wearing himself out. I personally don't have a problem with that. To me, it sounds like, hey, focus on your schoolwork, keep getting those straight A's, and I'll keep sending that money. That's what it sounds like to me, right? However, you've got to get to the heart of what it sounds like to your husband. And one of the things that this question does not say, let me take another look at it. Yeah, one of the things that this question doesn't say is it doesn't say why the husband feels that way, other than when she says, my husband thinks I'm enabling my baby boy. The fact that you call him your baby boy, he is your baby boy. He's always going to be your baby boy. My little guy over there, who's waiting for me to finish this podcast, he is always going to be my baby boy. Now, he may grow taller than me, and he may be looking down on mama, and he may be able to pick mama up because he'll be so strong, but he will always be my baby boy, just like my oldest will always be my firstborn Lovey. Always be the one that broke the curse and allowed me to have, I had a child after losing so many, right? Those titles never go away. But the husband thinks you're enabling the baby boy. At first blush, I'm going to be like, does he really though? Or is he just saying that to manipulate you or make you feel bad? But you called him your baby boy. So I'm kind of wondering now, there's no shade, okay? Because I'm walking through this season myself. I've got the little one, but I've gone through the range of emotions with the big one. I've got to have, I spent the first year he was gone crying, and then he came home for the summer, and then he got him a little summer job. But after that first month, I was like, okay, you can go to your summer job now. You can go to your summer internship now. I'm really good with that. And then he came home for a little bit more, and then I was like, okay, bye. And I still miss him so much, but it's not the same. It's not the same as those tears I was crying that first year, right? So I do understand this. And as a parent, a lot of times we use money with our children to stand in for emotional distress or to address emotional distress. And in this case, if your husband truly thinks you're enabling the boy, and the reason I say truly is because we don't know that that's really what's going on here. Or could husband be jealous? Or is husband got other plans? Or is he tired of hearing about it? Or whatever it is, we don't know that that's really what the husband feels. But I'm going to take it at face value that that's what you wrote. And so that's what he feels. Okay. If that really is what he's feeling, then that's a deeper issue. And it could be that this young man has never had to have a job. Probably not the smartest thing for a child. It could be that this young man has never had to cook their own meals. Probably not the smartest thing for a child to grow up. It could be this young man has never really had to struggle or stand on his own 2 feet. Now, I don't know. I'm not in your household. But I do know one thing. I remember when I was first climbing out of that $800,000 of debt, and I had knocked out all of the consumer debt, and now it was just a matter of real estate debt. And so once that pressure lifted of having been out of the consumer debt, all the credit cards and all the other things that were run up while I was deployed, I wanted to have my son have more nicer things and to have more opportunities that I didn't have. Yet at the same time, I wanted him to be grounded. See, he doesn't remember when he was 3 years old and we got divorced and I was sleeping in a moldy basement apartment with 1 bedroom and his little toddler mattress at the foot of my bed. He doesn't remember those days. He doesn't remember when we moved into our first real apartment, after that moldy basement apartment. He for a couple months. He doesn't remember our first permanent apartment that we had, where our furniture was cardboard. He don't remember any of that. That was so long ago. And I didn't want him to grow up entitled. And so, interestingly, it was actually my CPA, Abera Koya, the wealth building CPA. If you need one, she is able to help your finances everywhere. If you got real estate, go to her. She didn't ask me to say that. It's just a spontaneous plug for Abera Koya, the wealth building CPA. She has been an amazing CPA in my life for, Philip's 20 years now. So probably at least 15 of those years, if not longer. We've been investing together since both of our babies were nursing. Okay. So I'm sharing this with you because she actually was the one. I was like, hey, I need to find a church that's doing some kind of soup kitchens or something like that where my son and I can serve. And I always put him in places where we would be in a humble situation or working with people in a humble situation. So we would serve the homeless meals. We would, when we were in Shreveport, we would go and do the meals and hand out the bus passes and things like that. take up collections for the rescue mission. You got to be a little careful about some of that when you've got kids around homeless, but for the most part, any kind of situation like that I could put him in, going to visit the veterans, like even when we were in the DC area doing landscaping and other volunteer work for the veterans homes, like I always wanted to put him in things so that he would learn some life skills that I may not necessarily be able to teach him as a single mom, but B, that he would have an appreciation for the fact that some people didn't have it as well as we did. And so when I read that sentence about my husband thinks I'm enabling my baby boy, I kind of got to ask, are you? Are you taking away some part of his college experience that would really help turn him into a man? I don't know. And I know this podcast, these 3 podcasts that we've recorded tonight have been so stereotypical male and female. And I don't mean to be cisgendered traditional old fogey about it at all. Okay. It's just the nature of the questions and the people asking the questions. Okay. But but we have certain rites of passage. Eating ramen as a broke college student or as a broke grad student really is a rite of passage. Rooming with your friends and having to scrimp and save and figure stuff out is a rite of passage. Understanding what it's like to run out of money and have to figure out how to use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. That's a rite of passage to adulthood. And so many of us don't realize how we hamstring our children in those ways. So I gave you an example of something that I did right. Whoo, I did something right for a change, right? But there were other things that I didn't do right. Like when he was like maybe 12 or 13. Now, he always liked to cook. He just liked to cook. He loved to be in the kitchen. He came up with his own mac and cheese recipe at 7 years old, and it's still one of the best mac and cheeses I've ever tasted, y'all. He really puts his foot in it. But everything else, I didn't teach him. I taught him how to vacuum, but he didn't know how to wash dishes. He didn't know how to manage money. He didn't know how to take care of the house. He didn't know how to do all, because I just did it all. And I was so busy putting him in things and events and sports and all that stuff that I just took care of it. It was easier to take care of it. It was easier to go to the grocery store while he was at football practice than to have to go through it with him. And so he was maybe 12 or 13 or 14 or something. And I realized, oh my goodness, I don't have many years left before this child leaves my home. And so then it was like, okay, we're going to go to the grocery store and we're going to calculate this. And how much is this? No, it's not $9.99. No. It's not $9. It's $9.99, which is really $10 plus tax is really more, because this is a state that taxes food. Some states do, some states don't, right? And so how much is this? Pumping the gas. Just the basic things that you just do. And so I wonder if it's more about the path to adulthood than it is about the finances. And so if you really feel like your husband is genuinely frustrated because he is worried that you are enabling his son and causing his son to be delayed in becoming a mature, responsible adult, that is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm going to be the first to admit that stereotypically and traditionally, we mamas, we are not the best about that. especially when they're straight A's. And I don't want the little one over there to get any ideas if he's still awake. But especially when they're doing everything they're supposed to do, you just want to do more for them. When they are quote unquote good kids, all kids are good, but some have some things to address, right? But when they behave well and they make you look good in public and they do what they're supposed to do and they bring home straight A's and they perform well in the sports field and whatever other talent they have that you help nurture, it's easy. I would take my child to King Coffee and get him chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream every day if that was good for him, because I'm so pleased with him and proud of him, and I just love being his mom. But you know what? That's not healthy for him. It's just not. Okay. So then this question could be, I'm answering it like it is because I'm using the words that are on here. It could be more of an issue of, let's look at what the future looks like. Where do we want this child to do? Who do we want this child to be? How do we want this child to behave? Understanding that as a sophomore in college, he's probably 19, 20, technically isn't a child anymore. But as far as we can influence it, what do we want this person to be able to perform, contribute to society in the next 10 years, 5 years, because you don't really control after they graduate from college, right? What do you want that relationship to look like between you and your child? Are you spending money because the other two graduated and they took off and did their own thing, and now you're trying so bad to hold on to this one? Be real with me now. Is that really what's happening here? Because if that's what's happening here, your husband may not even have the words to identify what it is he's feeling, but he's feeling that energy from you. Maybe you're spending because you feel guilty about some poor parenting mistake that happened in the past. Is that what's happening here? Really sit down and consider it. And if you don't think anything is really going on, I would, no kidding, sit down and journal about it. It's called authentic journaling. And you just start with a prompt. So you could just say, why does my husband think I'm enabling my baby boy? And then you just start writing, and you start writing, and you start writing, and you keep writing until an answer emerges. And usually the first 2 or 3 sentences, maybe even the first 2 or 3 paragraphs, if you're wordy like I am, they aren't the answer. But you keep going until the answer emerges. And what you're doing is you're drawing it out of your consciousness. And maybe you have, like me, you have wrist issues and writing can be a lot of a problem. Record in your phone. Do the text to talk in your phone and really walk through it. Now for me, the power of my tongue, I would prefer to write, because authentic journaling, you may say things that you don't really mean, or you might explore things that you don't really believe, or you might, and you don't want the wrong person to hear that, but really think about it. Okay, because that's something that hamstrings a lot of parents as they move into this empty nest phase. And I thought I would never be one of them, but you know what? If I'd had a choice that first year about boohooing, I would have kept my oldest son home for all his 4 years. But you know what? I'm so glad he chose to move out and go to college, because he needed it and mama needed it. And so I would get into that. Now, those are the answers, assuming that's really what's going on here. Okay. It could be that there's something else going on here. And it could be that you're spending all your money to your son. You're sending all this money to your son, and then you're asking your husband for more money. Says the queen of, oh, I forgot my wallet. Oh, I was so hurt. I was so hurt the day that he looked at me. He said, oh, you forgot your wallet, huh? And then I realized he thought I was doing it on purpose. I was like, oh, no, it's not like that. I'm just not used to carrying it. And because I've been in the military, look at 23 years active duty plus 4 years at the Air Force Academy, I am not used to carrying a purse. I am used to wearing a uniform, and I sew all my pockets down so I can look thinner and look more professional. And I have one pocket that I leave open that I would put my wallet and my phone and all that kind of stuff in. And I just wasn't used. I'm just not used to carry. I'm still not. I'm still getting used to carrying a purse or wearing things that have pockets so that I can put things, I used to, whenever we go downtown DC, I'd put, I've got a, women have a very interesting place to put stuff, on one side I put my car key, and on the other side I put my wallet, and I mean my card. I wouldn't even have a whole wallet, I'd have my military ID and a card, a debit card or something. And so I just, it was like, whoa, is there something else going on? Is there more details to this? What's behind this? Were you supposed to save for something? Your husband decided he was going to save up for this thing over here. And, like he saved up for this summer home you guys have, assuming, I'm looking at the numbers you gave me here. They're pretty high. It sounds like y'all have pretty high income. He saved up for this summer cabin, this summer home, or this RV. You were supposed to save up for the next 2 cars or something like that. And it came time to replace the cars, and your money was gone because you've been giving it to your son. I don't know. I don't know the details behind that, but you really do want to get to the point where you can have an open and honest conversation. Like, what's the real deal here? Because we already talked about, if he really thinks that you're enabling, we walked through some of that, and some of that's hard for us as mamas. It's hard for us to really work through. But if there's a financial component that he is really concerned about, and he's using the excuse that you are enabling your son, then what has happened is somehow might not even be your fault, okay? Because I always find it interesting when people are like, well, I can't tell you how I feel. And I'm like, I always want to know how people feel. Like, I don't want people to lie to me. I'm not that person, you know? I don't ask a question, expect you to fluff my ego. Are you kidding? If I ask the question in the first place, it's because I think there's some way I need to change, right? You know, so I always find it interesting when people say that to me. And I think to myself, what did I do to make them feel like they couldn't come to me or they couldn't bring a concern to me? And usually, not always, but usually it's them. It's an insecurity on their part that they can't come to me. It's an insecurity that they're facing. It's a condemnation that they face because I'm doing the thing and they're not. You know, we talked about that in the walking video this morning. And so if you like to listen to things while you're out walking and you need something, we got a whole section of our YouTube channel called Walk with JJ, and you can I'm walking and talking. All right. And so you might enjoy that. But we talked about that earlier today about, you know, sometimes people will tear you down, or sometimes people have a criticism, or sometimes people have whatever they have that makes you feel negative. Don't receive that, because a lot of times it's about them, not you. It's actually more of a reflection on them, not you. But if your husband is saying you're enabling your baby boy, and there's no evidence that you're actually enabling him, you know, because if you got it like that and he doesn't have to work, like me as a parent, I'd be like, yes, make sure the child doesn't have to work so he doesn't have to get toxic bosses who just manipulate, who just take advantage of young people who work hard for very little money, right? You're not all young people are lazy and won't work. Some of them work really hard, and employers know they can get away with a lot. And so would I want that for my child? Yes, I would want that for my child. But you have to get at what's really going on. And if there's something deeper going on, then the fact that your husband didn't feel like he could tell you that is something that you guys also have to address. Again, not a counselor. Don't play one on TV. I'm just your friendly neighborhood financial coach and financial planner. And so I think, let me check the I don't see any comments in there. I don't see any questions. If you have a question, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here, but let me take a quick swig here. If you have a question, you got about maybe 20 seconds to drop it in the chat, and then we're going to go ahead and call it quits for tonight. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed those questions. And there was something else I was going to say there, but I have totally forgotten it. So we're just going to cut it. We're just going to let it go. Yeah, I really am drawing a blank. Normally when I have announcements or something, I type them up and I put them on the top of my computer so I don't forget them. And I didn't do that today. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed those questions. Or I hope you've enjoyed that question. And I hope that I will see you again on the next Ladies of Wealth podcast. If you have a question and you'd like to ask it for the Ladies of Wealth podcast, please go out to ladiesofwealth.com and click Ask JJ. And there will be two options. One is a contact form that you can do anonymously. And then the other one is a button that has a microphone. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to fill out anything. You just click the button and speak your question, and then it'll come to me and I can actually incorporate it into the podcast, which I really love. I'm doing a push to get people to do that. I think we're going to do some kind of promotion next month to try to get more people to do that. But you could be the first, second, third, or fourth, and I would love you for it. Okay. With that, I don't see any questions in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank y'all for being with me today. Please connect with me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all the things as JJ Knows the Way, except TikTok, which I'm JJ Knows the Way Real, because somebody swooped in and got my username right. And it's so funny because it was right after I said, I'm not going to bother with TikTok. And then somebody's like, you better, or somebody's going to steal your name. And I was like, nobody's going to want my name. And then I went back. I was like, you know what? They might. I went back a month later. That name was gone. So, yeah. You can find me on every other social media as JJ Knows the Way. And if you come across a social media that I'm not on yet, let me know about it so I can stake my claim. Don't you take my name now. Anyway, if you can You can find me on social media at JJ Knows the Way. And the only reason I can say I know the way is because I know the one who is the way. Y'all take care and be blessed.